Good afternoon from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Ross Johnston. The Tennessee Titans have finally gotten their guy as they hire 49ers defensive coordinator and former Jets head coach Robert Saleh to be the franchise's new head man. Saleh had a 20-36 record with the Jets before he was fired after Week 5 of the 2024 season, but had a top 5 defense in 2022, 2023, and 2024 before his firing. The Indiana Hoosiers won their first national championship of football last night, defeating Miami 27-21 as Fernando Mendoza ends his collegiate career on top. Mendoza went 16 of 27 for 186 yards in the game, but also had a crucial rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter as the game ended on a Carson Beck interception. Also, Father Ryan alumni Charlie Becker had 4 grabs for 65 yards in the game. Lastly, Vanderbilt heads to Fayetteville tonight as they face off with the number 20 ranked Arkansas Razorbacks in an SEC battle. Tip-off is scheduled for 8 p.m. Central in that one. For all your foundation repair, waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans of Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. Late last night, I turned off TV. I watched a little bit of episode of West Wing to kind of to get down from the championship football game high.
I'll see.
Put my phone out, set my alarm, see all these notifications come in. Tennessee Titans have hired Robert Saleh, and I was up till 11:45 p.m. last night.
Oh, my.
Going through all the information because a lot of information came out last night.
Y'all don't remember my prediction?
I do. I said halftime.
What did I say?
What was it?
I said halftime. You said third quarter.
Oh, third quarter that they were going to hire.
Yeah. Because I said halftime.
That's right. So we were really close.
Yeah,
though.
we were pretty close. We knew it was going to be last night.
Yeah, because once you said, I wouldn't be surprised in the next 24 hours if not tonight. I was like, what? They're going to announce that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe they will.
So
Good job. Good call.
someone asked if I was going to shave my head for Saleh, and I said I would never have agreed to shave my head ever in my life.
nope.
So there's no doubt that this head of hair.
Was that somebody else or another show?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
But
my
it's definitely
gosh, was
not
that
here.
me?
I think that was Bananas. Banana.
What was mine about? Was it if Nagy got hired?
Yeah.
Y'all would shave my head? Thank
Yeah, 'cause
God, I forgot about that.
I would have changed it to your mustache or
Yeah.
something. I wouldn't want to do that to your locks. Up
They
there.
tried to get me to do that. I remember the chat trying to get me to do it, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Oh, okay.
I ain't agreeing to that.
Ooh, man, I remember my rookie year. They just shaved my head in spots and messed my hair up. It took the entire season for my hair to grow back right.
Yeah.
I was perturbed. I mean, pissed. They put divots all in my head.
Yeah.
And you can't go nothing but go low.
I'll tell you one thing. I really did think it was going to be Matt Nagy. I mean, he had a dinner. He had almost all day, and I guess all it took was for Robert Saleh to convince a few people in power to that in 5 measly hours that he was going to be the guy. That he had the plan for Cam Ward. He presented the plan for Cam Ward and the entire team.
Were you there? Did you?
That's
did you
what
get
they're
the plan?
saying. That's what they're
Did you get the
saying.
plan?
I wish.
Did we get a summary?
I wish.
I want to know the plan for Cam Ward.
Well, let me tell you something. That should be the first question. Nothing about the Jets. Nothing about what steakhouse they went to
Benny
or
and the
anything like that.
Jets.
It needs to be at the presser. What was your plan for Cam Ward? What is the scheme? And who's some people that are going to implement the scheme? That's what I want to know, because he had a plan for Zach Wilson, and everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and it didn't work out. So I want to know what it is.
What do you think it is, if you had to guess? I mean, just on who he's going to get as coordinator.
I don't know, because he has so many different coordinators to pull from.
Ties, yeah.
And so many ties, and we don't know. Okay, Bobby Slowick was kind of closer to Kyle Shanahan's offensive system when he went to Houston. but he spent the last year in Miami. So what has changed about Bobby Slowick? Maybe he's learned something new that he wants to implement in his scheme that he picked up from Mike McDaniel. Doesn't sound like Mike McDaniel's getting the job. Kept trying to tell people that may be the choice. I
want him as the OC. Remember, I wanted a tandem.
You should just hire him as head coach, but Diana Rossini says he didn't jive with people.
She said he didn't jive. What was that?
I guess his personality didn't mesh.
Oh, his personality? Now, what would you think that would be? When we say different, though, that means it didn't jive with ownership and the people who were making the decision. What do you think that was? Like, did you think he came across as arrogant or he's just not a good fit? He was kind of egotistical. I mean, what is telling you that this guy, knowing he's in front of you, trying to sell himself to be the head coach, that you just say, there's no die. We don't jive with him. What do you think that? If you had to make a guess.
If I had to make a guess, I think it's because he's the smartest person in that room.
And that is exactly what I thought you would say. And guess what? They run from those kind of people. And guess what? They should be running to those people.
I think it's because he was this. And listen, when you're the smartest person in the room, it can become off as arrogant. And he's very weird, right? Like he's very dry. I mean, I guess I would say his sense of humor and stuff, that shouldn't matter, right? Because Jim Harbaugh, someone today said, when I told them that, okay, the Chargers seem to really like Mike McDaniel, goes, well, I don't see how Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh would get along. I was like, have you ever read a story or heard Jim Harbaugh speak? He's just as weird as Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, he's quirky now.
He's quirky.
Yeah.
So they would. But I think it comes down to, if I had to guess, he's a Ivy League grad. He's probably one of these, just pound for pound, smartest guys in the NFL. And sometimes when you get those guys in a room, in a setting, sometimes it doesn't mesh. Sometimes people feel threatened. I don't know.
Shouldn't you walk out of that room and go, man, was he impressive? Instead of, oh, man, we don't jive with him. He just knows ball way too well.
That's what I'm saying.
Look at that.
That's what I'm saying.
Man.
The only practical thing I could think of, I don't know if this would be it, is like the culture aspect being so important. Not saying he doesn't have that, but like that leader of men attitude. I don't know if he portrays that a lot.
He doesn't have the vanity muscles, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean, essentially that's what people nowadays, at least fans from the outside, because again, we don't know the kind of culture that Robert Saleh is really going to be able to bring and instill. The same that we wouldn't know about Mike McDaniel. The same that we may have a better idea of Mike McCarthy because the sample size is so long. Same with John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. But we really don't know because we're never in those meetings. We're never in that locker room. We're very rarely on the practice field where we may be able to see that. We very rarely have access to that. But I think there is something to the fact that if you have the muscles, the demeanor, whatever kind of physique or look, you get a lot more leeway than maybe some other people do in this coaching world right now. And I think that's just how this whole kind of world is trending.
So now they basically heard he probably won't come here even as an OC. If an opportunity presents itself.
Well, I mean, Diana Rossini, and listen, we've been saying it for a long time here on the show, like there's a lot better options. He's still in contention for head coaching shots, right? Like, I mean, he's not been eliminated from anybody else's head coaching cycle quite yet. And then there are 13, just think about this, everybody, 13 open offensive coordinator jobs.
Oh, man,
There are the 9 head coaching jobs. I got to make sure. I don't even know if Buffalo is on here yet.
This is the thing about this dream head coach. Now, you got Saleh. What if you get McDaniel? And then you got Fossil. Oh, my gosh. That's almost like a dream team coaching staff.
Right. So 13. And I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and recount because that may not count Buffalo yet.
What's the highest paid offensive coordinator, Ross? In the NFL.
That was that Chip Kelly last year?
Yeah, $6 million.
Something like that. Didn't he get highest paid for whatever reason?
I think you're right.
Yes, you were correct.
Yeah. I'd give him 6.1.
So McDaniel. 13. I mean, okay, so you got Buffalo, right? There's an offensive coordinator position.
Dang.
You got Philadelphia. the Chargers. Those are two attractive offensive coordinator positions.
Tampa Bay.
Falcons and Dolphins still need one.
Yeah, Falcons, Dolphins, Giants technically still need one. They have not signed anybody. Atlanta still needs one. Pittsburgh still needs one. Nobody's hired an offensive coordinator that needs an offensive coordinator.
Lions.
Except for the Lions.
Which we thought that's where he would get.
Yeah.
That was a no-brainer, right? Nope.
So I would be very skeptical if McDaniel finds his way there. But that also needs to kind of put in your mind as well is that many offensive coordinator positions, the well could dry up very quickly for offensive coordinator spots.
You got to be on it,
So we got to be on it. Like this, there's no time to dilly-dally and everything. As soon as that ink is dry on the contract for Robert Saleh, even before his press conference, they need to start interviewing people.
I got a theory for you, or a projection of like what I would want. I want obviously McDaniel as the offensive coordinator with Saleh, but his assistant to the offensive coordinator is your man Slowick.
Yep.
And guess what? You're going to be the one getting trained for when he leaves for that head coaching job because we're going to do a great job here.
Yeah. See, I was thinking that because McDaniel could bring Slowick, or he could also bring Frank Smith with him, who has been his offensive coordinator. And I'm almost tempted to say, why not, if you lose out on Mike McDaniel, you should be on the phone with Frank Smith.
They don't, but must not like that style.
I don't know. And then I look at, if you bring Mike LaFleur, who is, and this is kind of why I wish maybe the Titans had done a virtual with also Mike LaFleur, because then you could also already have the groundwork and further information on what his plan would be for Cam Ward, right? So you would have that groundwork and information. But Mike LaFleur can't be hired until maybe 2 weeks at the earliest. Man. And so, but I look at Mike LaFleur, and I'm like, okay, if you hire him, maybe you get that Nate Schillhouse guy. Okay, if he doesn't get a job somewhere else, maybe you get. I don't know about Davis Webb. I don't think there's a connection there, but maybe you get Zach Robinson or Dave Ragone, who have also had prior experience, but they could maybe be the next guy up because you got to. It's not just the offensive coordinator; it's who's the offensive coordinator after that guy's hired as head coach or fired because he sucks. Like, you got to be thinking several steps ahead in the situation because we've seen so many defensive head coaches not have kind of a quick game plan or recovery method for when that guy is eventually hired away or fired that they start taking steps back. This is the most critical 3 years of Cam Ward's development, and it's the most critical 3 years for the Titans. And the most important people for Cam Ward's success are people that have nothing to do with Robert Saleh's side of the football. Like, when Saleh was hired.
Which I think is a solid hire.
It's a solid hire.
Yeah, no doubt.
But all you saw was how good his defenses were. What about the offenses? And don't just feed me something saying, well, they have Zach Wilson. They didn't even make Zach Wilson, who they drafted and were in charge of developing, look like a backup quarterback. No. Even Will Levis looked like a backup quarterback. They didn't even have that. And they had Breece Hall.
Oh, yeah, he will be back next year.
They had Garrett Wilson, right? Like, I mean, they didn't lack for pieces.
Oh, man.
So the biggest driver of success for Cam Ward and this offense is Robert Saleh getting this hire right, or whatever tandem is going to do the hiring process. Because we know they can't have a straight-up hiring process without controversy and muddying the waters. If you're going to come out and say that Robert Saleh is in charge of his staff, you should let Robert Saleh pick his staff. You shouldn't force anybody on him unless he comes to you and says, hey, do you have any recommendations?
I saw you tweet out they have to do the Rooney Rule for the...
Yes. And the quarterback coach. So quarterback coach, and now they can be virtual. They don't have to be in person, but you have to do two. And the only thing I don't know is that, okay, if you interviewed Mike McDaniel for head coach, does that also count as offensive coordinator? I have not been able to find anything definitively on that. I don't know.
Well, maybe they'll bring him back for a second interview.
Maybe they will.
For OC.
For OC. But you got to think that, Saleh's going to have to also interview these OCs. So I don't know if the first round really matters too big. But you can't force anybody on Robert Saleh if he's going to be in charge of the staff.
Huh?
Well, you shouldn't. You can, because that's what this team does. They force decisions all the time against the will of other people. But at some point, you have. I don't know. Like I said, you got to let Berganzi be the final say and pick the guy and be the guy in the room. And that's already been muddied up. And I don't care what kind of retractions or anything out there. It's the truth somewhere in the middle.
Berganzi.
So I got to figure out, what are they going to let Robert Saleh do? What's he not going to do? Is this going to be Berganzi's decision, Saleh's decision? Who knows? But at some point, offensive coordinator's got to be figured out sooner rather than later. And it's got to come with a good quarterback coach that has familiarity with the offensive coordinator in the system. Because really, Saleh can't be also picking the quarterback coach without input from the offensive coordinator. Because the offensive coordinator is the head coach of the offense in this particular setup. So this guy's got to get hired so you can hire the rest of the staff. You can't start piecing together a bunch of different people, because that's what Carolina did with Frank Reich, and it blew up in their face.
Yeah, you got to be on the same page. Yeah,
got to be on the same page. So we'll get to the phone calls coming up next. We got Matthew and Mike on the line. We'll talk to them. We'll talk more about the Tennessee Titans hiring Robert Saleh. We'll also have Coach Mack at 2:20. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Naturally, the holiday seasons have passed, and guess what? The partying has passed, and now you slow down and you realize, my New Year's resolution is I need to lose a little bit of weight. Well, the approach to weight loss at Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy is a little bit different. We make sure all the patients have extensive lab work and face-to-face conversations in office with our nurse practitioner to create a customized treatment plan tailored to your specific needs. As well as Edge walks you through the process and guiding your treatment, answering questions, supporting you along the way. But you also get access to their in-body scanner to track weight loss and make sure you're maintaining that nice muscle mass that you have built along the way. As well as you get to lower your A1C, keeping your cravings in check, prioritizing protein, and having someone guide your journey from start to finish. So call the team at Edge Peptide for all your wellness questions at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878, or check them out online at edgepeptide.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. 14 offensive coordinator positions. NFL hadn't updated with Buffalo yet. 14 potential offensive coordinator positions waiting to be filled. Now, obviously, the Giants have a Todd Monken thing, but they have to go through the whole Rooney Rule process, which is for coordinators of both the offense, special teams, and defense. You have to do 2 minority candidate interviews, external candidate interviews, and they can be virtual or in person. So they don't have to fly in and be in person or anything like that. And then 1 minority interview, virtual or in person, for quarterback coach. And again, they don't have to be, flown in or anything like that. I mean, they could just be virtual as well.
I'm just setting it up because you already met with McDaniel, so you just do a virtual.
And I would assume that, you
that
could
means
do
we
that.
would not get him.
You could just do a quick virtual, right? And you could just say, "Hey, we're gonna hire you. We just got to get this one more out of the way." You could do it that way. We do have some positivity. I mean, I know it seems like we may be a little bit down, but I do have some positivity.
No, because we don't know the OC until we know the staff.
Until you know the staff. And that's the same thing with Matt Nagy. Until you know the staff. And we're going to be talking about Robert Saleh all throughout the week. Because, again, Matt Nagy could be the pick.
Right. Is he going to be, you think he had a shot at being OC?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, he needs a job. I mean, just in general.
Did he hire?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, you don't know who now. I wonder how many teams kind of took him off their board because they all thought that he was going to be the head coach here.
They're the Titans.
And so maybe you'll see him gain a little bit extra traction, maybe some offensive coordinator. Because, like I said, there's 14 offensive coordinator positions and still head coach positions open for grabs. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Nagy landed somewhere else.
How surprised are you that Matt Nagy was not the head coach? Because I know you were a big advocate.
Yeah.
All signs were, not saying you wanted him, but all signs were pointing in his direction.
I was pretty surprised. I mean, especially after, in fact, when they said that they both concluded the interviews, because last night during halftime is when the Titans said, we've concluded interviews, and then we didn't really hear anything. I was like, okay, well, maybe they hate both guys, and maybe they're going to have to re-enter, add some names to the finalist list. Or maybe they're just working out some stuff, and then obviously it's for Saleh. I am actually very surprised. I mean, and it looked like reports were trending that way anyway, but stuff happens, discussions happened, we'll put it that way. And I don't know, I am very surprised because at the same time you went down to 2 finalists. It just felt like this was all going to be Matt Nagy, but hey, props to Robert Saleh for convincing those in the rooms within 5 hours that he was the guy for the job. And that speaks of volumes about the kind of presence and I guess salesman that he is, right?
Hey,
yeah,
man, he did his job.
He did his job, and that's what you're looking for. And whatever he was selling, whatever he was putting down, whatever he was putting on the table strategy-wise, they bought it within it for 5 hours, and they were like, okay, let's do it. Let's roll.
Yeah. And
so props to him.
Props to him. And I think it's a solid hire. Really, when you go the defensive route, you just want to make sure you got not only the OC, but also who's going to be the quarterback coach and who are you developing to be the OC in case you get a high level, let's say it's Dayball or McDaniel. Or to me, those are the top 2 guys in my eyes.
I would agree with that.
I'm sure you know much more than that. But I would say if you can't get one of those 2 guys, who else is it? It's always those guys in the coaching industry. They know who's their up-and-coming guy. These guys are on the ground, on the field. They're watching film and what gives them problems, what they like to run, and what you think will be a complement to what style your defense is running and what offense would complement that.
Because to your point, Robert Saleh has studied a lot of offenses now.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's kind of like, oh, man, I know this offense will give every defense trouble.
Yes. Yep.
But does that offense fit Cam Ward? See, that's always what matters. You got to go back and ask that question. It's not just about what offense works against your defense and that you want that. It's also about, does it fit Cam Ward? And that's the most important question. Yeah. And we'll talk more about offensive coordinators.
To his strengths, by the way.
Yeah, to his strengths.
Cam Ward can play in any, offense. I just think some would accentuate his abilities a lot more than others.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go to Matthew, 615-737-1045. Matthew, you're on with Cover 2.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
What's going on, man?
What's up?
just wanted to point out a quick little fact that Robert Saleh had some interest in Cliff Kingsbury with the Jets. And we have a quarterback in Nashville who needs to be developed, and it should be our next biggest focus going forward. And personally, I do see Cliff having the most proven quarterback development. I mean, look what he's done with Mahomes, Murray, and Jaden Daniels in the past. And I think Cam Ward would have a lot of benefit from somebody with such a young quarterback experience, and as well as on-field coaching experience as well with Cliff being head coach. But I'll listen.
Yeah.
And,
hold on, Matthew, real quick. I wanted to ask you a question real quick. Like, why do you think he has this Kingsbury, this stint of good quarterbacks, and then all of a sudden it fades in that second year or the third year where you just don't get that same production outside of Daniel? I know he's got hurt, but at least at Arizona. Why do you think that happens? Even in college, that was somewhat the answer, case.
Yeah, and I knew that question would kind of arise. But honestly, I think my ideal candidates for the job would be Harbaugh, or somebody like the such, of somebody who can kind of finish polishing off Kingsbury.
Gotcha.
Or somebody who, somebody like that Stanley, somebody who finishes them off and kind of has the years of experience behind them.
Okay.
And then kind of helps Cliff kind of get over that edge of kind of just finalizing
I like it. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew. Speaking to that, so this is real. This is something to put out there. This is from Diana Rossini in The Athletic. After Robert Saleh's firing, she said that in the offseason, going from the 2023-2024, obviously Nathaniel Hackett had already been pushed on him by ownership, but he wanted to bring in a second guy. Okay? Because Nathaniel Hackett was not his guy. He had to fire Mike LaFleur because Aaron Rodgers and Woody Johnson wanted Nathaniel Hackett. So keep that in mind.
Which was connected to Aaron Rodgers.
Which is connected to Aaron Rodgers and his time at Green Bay with Nathaniel Hackett.
Makes sense.
That he tried to get Eric Bieniemy, Cliff Kingsbury, just like the caller said.
Okay.
Luke Getsy, who was last year, he was under Antonio Pierce at the Raiders, his offensive coordinator. Now, Luke Getsy's been around for a while, so you probably have heard that name.
He was a Packers and Bears quarterback coach.
So that's another one. Where's he at last?
Ooh, I don't know.
Check that.
I will.
And Arthur Smith.
He brought in Arthur Smith.
He wanted to bring in Arthur Smith. Saleh wanted to add a great mind to the offensive staff, and if he had succeeded, he might still have a job, but it proved too difficult to make an addition since he didn't have an offensive coordinator title to offer.
So Arthur Smith could be in the mix, who has familiarity with the ownership group.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
You're right.
I said that's who you would choose.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Getsy's been with the Packers in the last couple of years. Defensive consultant last year, senior assistant this year. He was an OC with the Bears in 22 and 23, and then OC with the Raiders in 24.
Okay, so let's go back. So in 2024, he was with who?
The Raiders as OC.
So it was
Came
the
in
Raiders.
from the Bears. Yeah.
Okay, so in 2025, he was what?
Senior assistant.
Okay, so he wasn't there. The reason I bring that up because Saleh was on staff after he was fired from the Jets with the Packers in 2024. So I was making sure that they didn't overlap there.
Both consultants, one offense, one defense, because Barry went over, I guess, after they fired Pierce.
Okay, so he was over there 2024.
Yeah, like the back half of it, yes.
Okay, gotcha. So there you go. They would have been hired likely at the same time. So Luke Getsy's one to throw out there. Good on the caller for bringing that up and having me do a little research. By the way, this is the second time I've been to this website today that gave me that.
Your cheat code. This is your cheat code.
Well, it is. It's called jetsxfactor.com. And the reason why I went there earlier today was because I wanted to find out kind of how they felt about Mike LaFleur. Because obviously offensive coordinator, he was the offensive coordinator there. And they kind of did a data-driven take on coming up with all these ways to measure stuff that is in the offensive coordinator's control that played out on the field, like wide receiver separation by a certain margin. Like, are you creating space? How unpredictable is your offense and stuff like that? And I just want to say that, I mean, it was bottom tier for Mike LaFleur. But obviously, there's a lot of mitigating factors we can kind of use. But again, pretty good website, I have to say. I want to give a shout out over there.
Where's it again?
JetsXFactor.com. I'd been there a couple of years ago, and I can't remember why I was at the JetsXFactor.com, but pretty good website came across today, and that's the second time that this. So we know Eric Bieniemy somewhere else. We know Cliff Kingsbury still available. Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I mean I can understand why you would be interested in Cliff Kingsbury. Luke Getsy, who's obviously available, and Art Smith, who I'm not very thrilled with. But, you know.
Why are you not thrilled with Arthur Smith? Because of what, the Pittsburgh stuff?
I think of the Pittsburgh and the Atlanta stuff. I think if you can't give the ball to your playmakers, you got something wrong. Like, it should be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. Shit.
Because we did kind of complain also about, like, why isn't A.J. Brown being targeted a lot, even with Arthur Smith sometimes? Now, I mean.
He would only get like 5 or 6 targets.
Yeah, I know.
Because they ran the ball.
They ran the ball. And they love giving it to Jonnu Smith. So maybe we'll get Jonnu Smith back here.
Which, by the way, that still goes on in the year 2026 with Arthur.
Finding ways to get Jonnu Smith the ball.
Oh, my.
And I'm very interested because, like we said earlier, obviously he had a pretty detailed path for Cam Ward already drawn out. I believe it's Albert Breer who reported that. A few people have reported it, but I think Albert Breer was the first bet. But that's what really, quote unquote, wowed them was his plan for Cam Ward.
Oh, okay. Watch this. Arthur Smith, envision Cam Ward in that offense. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Sack.
I was going to say under center.
Oh my God. I mean, man, where did their offense rank with the Steelers? Was it that bad?
It got better at the end of the regular season, but it wasn't great.
Oh, man, because you hear Pittsburgh people like they act like it was horrendous. Like they did not like it. I don't know if it was just not a good fit with Aaron Rodgers. They tried to make it work, and they both were all
They
working.
were 16th and 15th in points.
Oh, okay.
But they were
It started
23rd
out
and
hot.
25th in yards.
Oh.
And then in Atlanta, the best scoring year was 2022, where he was 15th in points. His best yardage year was 2023, where they were 17th in yards. So
he stays around the middle of the road.
average. Now, there's a lot of years where he's 24, 23,
Where
25,
was
29.
that?
That's in 2021, 2022, and of course 2024 and 2025 in terms of yards.
Oh.
So
He was with the Titans.
Titans, it was great. When you got Ryan Tannehill, Derrick
what
Henry.
was it with the Titans? Let's do comparisons.
Okay, so in the Titans in 2020, he was second in yards, fourth in points.
Oh, no wonder, man.
In 2019, when you had the split between Marcus and then Tannehill, they ended 12th in yards and 10th in points.
Okay, still.
So, yeah, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill.
Corey Davis both those years as well.
Yeah, sure.
He had a good year in
Tight end.
2020.
You include Corey.
He had a
Tight
good year in
ends.
2020.
Yeah. So,
That's so long ago, though, man.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to envision. We got to get a baller at that receiver spot, man, so to elevate all the other guys. Ooh.
Well, don't you think Jawan Jennings is a real possibility now if he's a free agent? Because of the San Fran overlap with Saleh?
it could be. I mean,
I think I got to wait to see who they hired the OC. Yeah.
because you may not need a guy like Jawan Jennings. You may not need a contested catch guy or anything like that. I mean, you may need a speed guy.
Yeah.
You may need a guy that can kind of get crafty and get open with his route running. We don't know what they really need yet. So it'll be interesting. I do find that kind of adds that little article that, thanks to our caller, Matthew. That does put a little, something a little bit out there. So just, something to watch. Something to watch. Okay. But like you said, it is the most important hire now. Like, obviously, head coach is important, right? They're your tone setter. They they set the vision. They set the mission. And I think he does that really well. In fact, we'll talk about some of the stuff. One of the things that I thought was one of the best clips that he's had with lots of great insight. But now the focus for fans and the Titans and Robert Saleh is, okay, I said I had this great plan for Cam Ward. Now it's time to act on it. Now it's time to put it together, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that is going to be able to secure the offensive staff that you theoretically or should have presented them, right? And I'm sure there's many options and many names.
Yeah, especially O-line coach.
But you guys are getting, yeah. Like if I let me say this.
I mean, maybe they keep some of the guys they got. I don't know. Maybe the ownership says, "Hey, would you mind keeping this guy?"
Maybe you keep Bo Hardegree for quarterback coach.
Quarterback, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to make that very clear.
No, I think that will be a possibility.
Right,
it's not a bad idea.
It's not the worst idea.
Now, but you're mixing and matching with a guy. Right. Maybe he's not averse to the new coordinator's scheme and system.
The coordinator would need to be the one that makes that call, not Robert Saleh, in my mind.
What was our scheme?
Well, I'm talking about whoever they hired.
I know.
But I don't know what our scheme was like.
It was whatever, I guess, Denver with Peyton Manning and all them was supposed to be. It was Timu 2013 Denver, whatever it was. But I got to look at it and I say you got to get the offensive coordinator right now. Like, I mean, I obviously can't do it today, but once the ink's dry, let's get the offensive coordinator interviews moving.
And I think that's when I'm really going to get super excited.
Right.
Because then I'll see where we're going. I like the vision. Now let's finish this up with the OC.
Yeah.
And everything else will fall into place. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about Robert Saleh and the positivity he may have on culture and leadership. We'll talk about his 4 C's, which I think is really interesting. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
See, me, myself, and I. There are a lot of things Americans split 50-50 on. Naturally, politics, working from home versus the office, coffee versus tea. But there's one thing we'll all agree on. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop. And that is taking care of your car repairs and making sure it won't be as complicated as it always seems. Your repair is only as good as the person under the hood. And most of the problems in fixing your vehicle is a knowledge issue, not someone trying to rip you off. And a lot of techs are not properly trained, so they end up guessing what to do, and that causes delays in getting your vehicle back or repeat visits for the same freaking issues. So for around a quarter century or so, Eurofix has done things differently. Every visit starts with a free 15-minute no-rinse inspection so you know what's going on before they even start working on your vehicle. As well as Eurofix pays its technicians more than any other company does to attract the best and the brightest talent around. And Eurofix still fixes European vehicles at below dealer pricing, also with a 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty on all the work Eurofix perform. As well as rental cars are always available. Locally owned, family run with 5 locations all over the state of Tennessee. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX or online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Store. 615-737-1045 is the number. Got a lot of information pouring in. Big Jeff was on Bussin' with the Boys.
Oh, you love all the information.
There's a lot of information right now.
Just get hot.
Albert Breer put out an article about how Robert Saleh won the Titans head coaching job. Haven't been able to read that yet because I was trying to find these Bussin' with the Boys clips that maybe we'll get to later in the show. But I will say this. I was able to watch one clip today. And that was Robert Saleh talking to the Jets. I believe this was maybe Hard Knocks or maybe it was some like Jets documentary that they do in the offseason. But he talked about the 4 different competitors. And watching this clip, you could see how, hey, man, this guy, he can set the tone. He can be the culture builder. Now, can he sustain a culture? Can other external factors affect that? Possibly so. But he speaks on the 4 level of competitors. Mm-hmm. And he names them off: commanders, competitors, contenders, and survivors.
I will survive.
And he starts at the bottom. And he says, there's your survivors. They survive just enough to get by. These survivors love taking the easy way out. And they're so miserable, they'll drag you down. And every team has at least one. And those are your survivors.
And he said everyone knows who they are, too.
Right.
This is true.
Contenders. Contenders are motivated by external factors for playing time, money, fame. He will only reach his potential when those external factors are threatened. There's competitors, internally motivated to be the best, regardless of any kind of external factors, because they have a championship mindset. And then he had commanders, and he said the only difference between a commander and a competitor is that a commander has all the traits of a competitor, except he brings people with him.
Oh, that was me.
That was you. I figured you'd be the top one. When we were talking about this pre-show, you didn't get to hear the first one.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know. We got one more.
I definitely knew I was competitors going to be the best. But yeah,
yes.
that's strong right there, man. And but I wanted you to explain to them what he said, and this is kind of more my philosophy is you always target the stud, the elite player, because if you do him, then everybody else follows in line.
Oh, that's right.
So he pointed, go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
So to your point, he pointed out to Aaron Rodgers, who's getting his notebook out, and he asked the crew, how many people know the 4 levels of competitors? And nobody really answers, right? And then he says, hey, Aaron, you've been doing this for 20 years. You're about to learn something. Points to Aaron Rodgers right there. Now, listen, Aaron Rodgers was engaged, taking notes, so good on Aaron Rodgers.
In the league,
yeah. But he said 20 years in the league, you're about to learn something new today.
So guess what? If he can learn, everybody else in his room, you better have your ears and eyes and focus ready to take some notes right now.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite. It was Hard Knocks. That was one of my favorite scenes in that Hard. It was so good.
Now, I would normally say let's play the clip, but it's a 3-minute long clip filled with F-bombs.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's filled with a lot of F-bombs. He's a conversational F-bomber.
I don't have anything.
You don't have it? No, you got your hands up.
Yeah. He's a conversational F-bomber.
I'd have to log into my HBO account. But if you do have an HBO account, you can go back and watch that.
Or if you need that clip.
Well, we came in here like the last minute.
Yeah, if you need that clip.
And I just want Ross to just
beep. Go to Titans Film Room on Twitter. He has that clip up.
Oh, man.
But it is a lot of F-bombs. And that's fine. I don't care about, me. I do a podcast called Football and Other F-bombs.
Athletes get babied in these meetings, and that is nothing like how it is, even still today.
Well, that's kind of what sunk Matt Nagy with Mitch Trubisky in that locker room is that he was too harsh with Mitch Trubisky and they all didn't like it.
Oh, man.
We love Mitch Trubisky. You can't be mean to him.
Oh, nah. Well, guess what? Maybe not as much when you're trying to establish culture, you got to go all in.
Yeah.
But then as time goes on and you understand who the team is and you may want to have separate conversations with your quarterback than you would with, your D tackle and then call out to DeCastro or whoever it may be. So I get all that. But when you're setting the tone for the culture, though, you make sure you go after all the elite players on the team. And you let them know, hey, this is the standard. They're going to follow you, so I'm coming after you. And I'm actually, if I'm the leader and I'm the head coach, I'm going to tell them beforehand so they won't get offended.
Yeah.
When we're in this team meeting, I'm coming at you. So just sit back and relax and just hold on your horses and listen to what I got to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see that, and that's how you develop that relationship right off the bat. And then you move on after you do that one time. It only take one or two times, and that's it. And then you go and then you start pointing out good or bad after each and every game. We watched the highlight reel of every good and bad plays. It wasn't to call people out in a team meeting form. Now, not in in your own isolated room. Good and bad. I'm up here, oh, man, damn, I hope that one bad play. They show. Yeah. And, he picks different, sometimes it's just random, even on special teams. And so that was very beneficial. This is what we're looking for, especially for coaches. It's always about the effort guy. The guy was putting forth effort, and then guess what? He got rewarded with a fumble recovery, or it saved a recovery for us that kept a drive alive. We end up winning by 3 points. You just kind of start looking at these little bitty things that kind of you just pass by and gloss by as a player, once you go back and watch film, because that's not part of what you're doing. So I used to love watching all this stuff, because then you also get to see what other players do, especially on the other side of the ball. You miss a whole bunch of things if you're just focused on yourself, even on your side of the ball. Yeah. So I appreciated all of that and what we're looking for, and this is how we play. And sometimes it would be just, maybe a back end of a roster guy. Look at this guy, because guess what? He's balls to the wall all the time, because he knows every play matters. If not, he'll be on the streets.
Yeah.
And so if you get that kind of mentality from your leaders all the way throughout your team, it's easy. It's then once that happens, it's easy. Now let's rock and roll.
Yeah, I've only watched that one particular clip from Hard Knocks. I probably will go out throughout the week and try to watch more of that particular Hard Knocks. But I have to say, that one clip, not only was he right in the messaging, like correct in how he presented it, but the way that he delivered it, I thought was very compelling. And if I would have been like engaged, and been pumped up. Now, it didn't lead to a lot of wins, but that's a whole nother issue, right? Like, that's a whole separate issue than when you're talking about a guy coming in. And what did we hear from both Cam Ward, Big Jeff, and a couple of these other players, even the players at the Browns? They want someone that's going to have a high set the standard and be accountable. And that sounded like a guy that would do that. Now, that sounds like a guy that would do that. It does not mean that is the guy that does it. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that I think he is.
Wow. I want to say that he is, but my whole question is, I don't think that's what I doubt. I doubt if what you said you want as players is actually what you really want. Yeah. Somebody to hold you accountable. I think I believe that in Big Jeff. Yeah. But I don't know about, some of these young guys. Some guys don't like to be critiqued. Even in my era, it's just they get a little weird. Like, hey, man, dang, man, you need to chill out.
Do you think it's because maybe they came from a background where maybe they didn't have to get critiqued, or they didn't get critiqued in high school and college?
And I think that's why I say that, is because they've always been the best player. Yeah. And they, even if they did something wrong throughout that whole journey, through college to high school, whatever, they were always the best player. And even if they made a mistake, they could overcome it because they were just that much better than everybody else. So I think now when you start getting coached hard, some guys start to, I don't know if I really want that. Yeah. And so I just wonder, you could say that, but then there's a whole nother thing about
making sure you have the roster that can take it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And take that mentality and run with
it. Yeah.
Because do you have a bunch of survivors, or do you have at least a roster made of mostly competitors?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, I worry with the young guys if you got contenders. We just motivated by the external.
Yeah. I mean, that is the concern with NIL and stuff, right? You're more concerned with today's athletes are concerned. They're online. Like, external factors can be your perception of you online, right? Like from the fans and stuff. It could be the stats. Well, how much playing time am I getting? Like Chimere DK, for a guy that does all the special team stuff, and this, you can kind of say, this guy's just motivated. He doesn't care. Just find me a way on the field, and I'll prove you right. Like, that's good. I mean, outside looking in, that's kind of how I felt his season kind of went. But how many players do you have on that roster? And then Borgonzi kind of is trying to build a roster that was kind of like that, right?
He definitely got those kind of plays, at least in this rookie class, for sure.
So, I mean, this seems like so far on the outside, day one.
Good match.
Mm-hmm. But we'll continue to monitor it. We got kids kind of like watching a graph, right? Like the ups and downs, like a stock market ticker. You got to see how it goes. Stock up, stock down. We'll see. All right, coming up next, we'll talk more about the process, how Robert Saleh won the Titans head coaching job. Coming up next, this is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Hey, it's Zach Lyons. If you wear glasses, you already know the struggle. I'm constantly looking for them, waking up blind without them, knocking them off the nightstand. Heck, I even have to get prescription sunglasses. So don't even get me started on vacation. Swimming, forget it. Fogging up, smudges, scratches. My whole day revolves around these things so that I can see. And the truth is, I've been dealing with blurry vision for years. Glasses help, but they're also a hassle. And lately, I've been seriously thinking there has to be a better way. That's when I started hearing from my colleagues here at Cumulus who had vision correction done by Dr. Horn at Vision for Life. And every single one of them said the same thing. They wish they'd done it sooner. So I did my homework, I read the reviews, and decided it was time. I'm going to have my vision corrected by Dr. Horn, and I'll walk you guys through the experience step by step before, during, and after at the end of February. If you're tired of dealing with glasses, contacts, or blurry vision, don't keep putting it off. Call Vision for Life at 615-436-2020 or visit visionforlife.com to schedule your consultation. I'll keep you posted, and trust me, I'm excited to finally see clearly.
Good afternoon from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Ross Johnston. The Tennessee Titans have finally gotten their guy as they hire 49ers defensive coordinator and former Jets head coach Robert Saleh to be the franchise's new head man. Saleh had a 20-36 record with the Jets before he was fired after Week 5 of the 2024 season, but he did boast a top 5 defense in 2022, 2023, and 2024 before being fired that year. The Indiana Hoosiers won their first national championship in football last night, defeating Miami 27-21 as Fernando Mendoza ended his collegiate career on top. Mendoza went 16 of 27 for 186 yards, but had a crucial rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter as the game ended on a Carson Beck interception. Also, Father Ryan alumni Charlie Becker had 4 grabs for 65 yards in the game for Indiana. Lastly, Vanderbilt heads to Fayetteville tonight as they face off with the number 20 ranked Arkansas Razorbacks in an SEC battle. Tip-off is scheduled for 8 p.m. Central in that one. For all your foundation repair, waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. And we're broadcasting live from the 104.5 The Zone Circus Sports Studio. Kentucky's largest sports book can now be found at Circus Sports in Kentucky Downs. And all right, Albert Breer, who we know has some strong connections inside the building one way or the other with the Tennessee Titans. He has detailed not only the plan or the process to hire Robert Saleh, but he also gives us some insight into some additional names, maybe not on our radar, for offensive coordinator, and also talks about Mike McDaniel and his prospects as offensive coordinator, which echoes exactly what Diana Rossini said earlier today. So not good if you are Team Mike McDaniel, which we are. We are pro Mike McDaniel.
Man.
Not looking good. But it may not be the end of the world. But, I mean, man, that would have been awesome.
Dayball? No.
Well, we'll see. Let's get through it real quick here. So, Monday night, he had to go in. Last night, according to Albert Breer, he had to go in and win the job. Now, his only competition was Matt Nagy, but he had to go in and win it, is what Albert Breer says. He says, unlike Hafley in Miami, Stefanski in Atlanta, Tennessee hadn't had a chance to sit down with Saleh because of the Niners' run in the NFL rules. Monday was his first interview with the team. The Titans had looked at a wide swath of candidates in the weeks before, and had only Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy in the building. And from there, when the job Saleh did it. The Titans got a good feel for him through the months of research that followed Brian Callahan's firing. There's a lot of good nuggets in here, Blaine, so we're gonna talk about these. They went down the conventional path of talking to those closest to him in the coaching industry, obviously, like Matt LaFleur, one of Saleh's best friends, and they were best man at each other's weddings, so let's just make sure that we keep in mind here, how honest of feedback are you getting? But, you know, that's the risk you take in talking to, you know, best friends and all that kind of stuff. And it was also obviously the boss for his couple of months at the end of the 2024 season. This says 2023 season, but it was 2024 season. They also showed some creativity, and I think you'll like this part, Blaine, dispatching veteran players like Jeffrey Simmons to ask other players about all the specific candidates. So Jeffrey Simmons and a couple of the veterans would probably reach out to players at the 49ers and players at the Jets and get the real deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there, man.
I knew you would like that one. And 49ers and Jets players that they spoke highly of Robert Saleh. So, hey, when you talk about thorough process and the research they done, one of the things that we talked about was like, if you can, I don't know if you can talk to players, but players talking to players, that's a workaround.
Yes.
That's not tampering. That cannot be perceived as tampering.
That's workaround.
So that's pretty good. So what do you think about at least that part right now, just knowing that they did the background and everything, how you feeling about that process?
Oh, well, yeah, you got to feel comfortable. I mean, you got to be comfortable, feel comfortable about the decision if you're the Titans brass. I mean, that you did all the due diligence you can. I mean, so, yeah, they should be elated right now. And this is just the beginning. Now he's got to get his assistants. That's why I said then that's when the pieces of the puzzle starts coming together with the offense and defense coordinator, and then he's going to be calling plays. So you already got your special teams coach, I'm assuming. So that's pretty much now that you've made this decision, let the pieces fall where they may. And hopefully you can get a high-quality coordinator to match up with Cam Ward and quarterbacks coach the sky's the limit. I mean, they can get this thing back on the tracks real quick with a good draft of free agency, man. And it could be just like the good old days, really quick, at least competitive in that first season. So, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, it shouldn't be their first rodeo. They've done this before. So, yeah, I've never heard them go this deep, though. I do like that. I mean, I'd be borderline of doing everything I can within the framework of the rules. Then that's a workaround is what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, so then we get to the interview process. Now, I said there's about 5 hours, and that's kind of what Breer is reporting as well. We're going to take you through the process. He spent the first 3 hours with the Titans football leadership of Mike Bergonzi, Chad Brinker, Dave Ziegler, Dan Saganey, and Reggie McKenzie. Those guys we already knew were going to be involved in this. They went through Saleh's detailed plan for Cam Ward, in which Saleh demonstrated a real command of what Ward would need, including, and this is the big stuff, because this is stuff we were just talking about, including staffing on the offensive side with experienced candidates and a second phase plan should a coordinator leave. So that's some high level preparing. Now, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the mouth. But hey, listen, at least you're already thinking about that. Because that tells me is that Robert Saleh, like most coaches probably, is truly planning for success this year. And with success, especially on the offensive side of the ball, comes with head coaching candidates and people leaving. Right? Like, I mean, it just happens. And so he's already planning with a second phase. Now,
I want the cheat code, though. I want to know who he's got on there as the young team quarterback. I want to know who those people are.
Yep, I want to know. Now, here's a little funny nugget, because this speaks so much about there are similarities between Mike Vrabel and Robert Saleh.
No, this is where we're going down that road.
Well, I don't. It's not negative technically.
No, I think.
But just as important was his approach to setting up the entire organization and his level of detail in areas such as sports science. He explained how he'd take care of the players while pushing them hard enough to create a callus. I know exactly a coach that said that almost exact same thing. Gosh. And that coach had a myriad of injuries. I just want to throw
Did they read the same book or something?
I don't know. I don't know if that's just like something that's like passed down from defensive coordinator to defensive coordinator or something. But that one, when I read that, I was like, oh, I've heard that before.
Ross gave him that book.
I've heard that one before. But through it all, he showed the sort of presence and leadership that the football people knew owner Amy Adams Strunk was looking for. The type that Mike Vrabel brought to the building from 2018 to 2023. All right. Now, the ownership group was there for the quarterback planning of the 3-hour session. And then they did an interview at the cafeteria for dinner, so they didn't even get to go to the steakhouse. Took them to the cafeteria. I don't know what kind of food. Is it good food in the cafeteria?
Oh, yeah, they got steaks in there.
All right, just making sure. Do you think Amy Adams Strunk cooked the steaks like Arthur Blank did?
No, they
probably DoorDashed.
They probably DoorDashed.
No, they got good food up in there. Come on, man. They got to take care of the players.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, they got steak up in there.
So they accepted the job and everything. So here's where the real work begins. As he wraps up this article. Offensive coordinator, of course, is at the top of the list. Saleh is very close with ex-Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel, but McDaniel has options. And he says we'll get to those in a minute because there's another section for that. I'd expect Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, who I'd say is likely to stay in L.A. So there's maybe potentially another guy off the board. Ex-Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury. We just said Cliff Kingsbury and him had a connection.
Yep. With the Matthew
Thank
call.
you to Matthew. Ex-Giants coach Brian Daboll, who Borgonzi knows well from their time where they overlapped at Kansas City. People forget, and me too included. Mike Borgonzi was there in Kansas City before Andy Reid got there. And Steelers offensive coordinator Art Smith. So there's that name again.
Right there.
There's that name again. That scares me.
Ooh, I think his name is popping up a little much.
No, I don't like it.
I think it's going to be a thing.
Now, listen, the roster, of course, still has a way to go, which is similar to where the Jets were when Saleh took over in 2021. And it was a lot better by 2023. But in so many ways, he will give the Titans organization what it needs after an ugly 3-year stretch marked by constant hirings, firings, and job reassignments. He has energy, positivity, and presence, and experience from his time with the Jets, too. Now, let's go to Mike McDaniel. He's got a second interview with the Browns on the Wednesday for head coach. He met with the Raiders on Monday, and he's in the last group with the Buccaneers as offensive coordinator, and who could eventually, there is talks that maybe leadership there will have him become the successor to Todd Bowles if they decide to move on from Todd after his contract expires. So that's already messy. And while he's high on Robert Saleh's list, it'd be hard for the Titans to count on landing him. I'd also say it might be tough to get LaFleur out of Los Angeles. So that's his 2 strongest connections, by the way. From there, Daboll becomes an interesting name with his experience developing young quarterbacks and his ties to both Saleh. The two coached opposite each other for 3 years in New York. So obviously they probably have met and talked, you would have to assume. And Borgonzi, the two worked together in Kansas City in 2012. Otherwise, there's a deep well of Shanahan family coaches that Saleh can draw from. With contract situations and other coaches' willingness to let guys go through provide potential stumbling blocks they'll have to work through. Like Clay Kubiak. Kyle Shanahan has already said Clay Kubiak can't interview with anybody else. He's going to stay as offensive coordinator here. He's at least keeping him for 1 more year. So there's no Mike McDaniel, which Diana Rossini has already said. Albert Breer pretty much backs that up. No Mike LaFleur, or at least very unlikely Mike LaFleur is coming here. And now Clay Kubiak has been blocked. Well's already drying up pretty quick.
Yeah, what about, well, you didn't say Daboll.
I didn't say Daboll, but he may go to Buffalo.
Right, that's what people say.
So if he's gone, there's another guy gone. Yeah. But you have to say, I guess, quote unquote, settling for Cliff or possibly Art Smith.
Or possibly, dare I say, Matt Nagy.
Or Matt Nagy. Oh. May not be the worst thing in the world. But we will see, because he obviously came with the plan. How much of that plan hinged on some of these names? How much of his plan hinged on those guys' assistants that they have experience with also being here? So that is the key, right? Like, because you got to develop your next OC.
Yeah. Man, the pool can, it can zap up quickly, especially with all these openings. Ooh, man, I'll be really never nervous right now if I'm solid.
14 offensive coordinator positions are open.
All right, so give us your top 3 of the list, or even if they're even not on the list.
So can I still include Mike McDaniel?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, Mike McDaniel.
Okay, we right there.
Number 2, I would go Adam Stenavich in the Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator if Matt LaFleur will let him go. He's a non-play calling OC, but I have faith that maybe he could do this. And he has a working relationship with Robert Saleh.
Well. Oh, he does?
Yes.
Okay.
2 years with San Francisco and 1 year or half a year at Green Bay last year.
But never play caller.
Never been a play caller. You can't be scared of not having a play caller, but I mean...
Well, I'm putting myself in his shoes.
I know.
The head coach, Saleh.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm getting my second shot. Could be my last shot. And I'm going to go with a guy who's never called plays. That may be your I better
choices.
know him really well.
Which Adam Stenavich, I would assume he would. And then I think the number 3 is not a guy that he probably knows very well, but he would at least be highly recommended, would be Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator with Mike McDaniel for the whole time he was down there in Miami. And he's gotten some head coaching interviews
But has
in the
he called
past.
plays?
He has not called plays.
Right, because Daniel's called plays.
Yeah. So,
But if Bo Hardegree's your quarterback coach, he's called plays.
those would be
like-
my top three. But don't
Looks
forget,
like Arthur Smith is on deck.
don't forget Bobby Sloak is still out there, who they've spent time together in San Francisco. He's been a play caller for 2 years, and he himself spent time in Miami. So, what did he learn? Maybe or glean some insight that he may have gleaned to add to his
resume.
resume.
Oh,
playbook.
okay, sounds like a good quarterback coach.
You never know. Hey, there you go. Let's go to Hercules. Hercules, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. First question: why did nobody wanted to reach out to McDermott from the Bills?
I have no clue. I haven't really heard anybody reach out to him yet.
Not just the Titan. Nobody's reached out to him, I don't think. I haven't heard anything.
Diana said today, she said that it's just timing issues, that everybody's kind of in their second round. Do you want to put a pause on it? I don't know how, reliable that is, but that's what
I would have brought him in for an interview, even though it was the second go-around, just because of his resume. I mean, you never know.
Well, when when he came available, they said he was the best candidate available, now that he's available. And that's how come.
Yeah.
But Matt LaFleur, he wants to be a head coach. He told us that the first time he interviewed with same time Vrabel interviewed. And but Vrabel kept him as a coordinator. And then the other guy, Arthur Smith, I know he did a good job when he was here, but he was working with the play action pass and that worked for him because he had Derrick Henry. At that time, they were putting 8, 9, 10 in the box, stop Derrick. And so that play action pass really worked. But I don't know how well he would be, and I don't know how well Cam Ward would be with the play action. A majority of that. And I hang up from here and listen to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have concerns with Art Smith, the ability to utilize the pieces to the way that they need to be. When it's not so blatantly obvious.
Okay, you know what's really weird, though? He never had an issue with that here.
I know.
And when I saw that at Atlanta, and then I don't know if he really had pieces in Pittsburgh, besides Metcalf. That's the only...
We had Pickens the year before.
Well, okay.
Yeah. But, I know Pickens is a special case.
Right, exactly. We talking about head case. If you're not getting the ball, all of a sudden he starts, not running routes. Not blocking. What are we talking about here? So, but it still seemed like it kept propping up, even from Atlanta to the Pittsburgh. And I'm just like, wow, that didn't even sound right based off what is, what he looked like here. So, man, I don't know, man. That's a tough one there because it's a different style without those kind of pieces.
And I feel like Art Smith's a little bit way different than most of the offensive coordinators in the NFL. You kind of see them all. Art Smith's
It's not as traditional.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what
Not
best
updated,
to describe it, but yeah, maybe not updated.
I don't even know what style. I don't even know what style you call that offense.
It's because it was kind of Matt LaFleur, but it wasn't like the LaFleur McVay Shanahan tree because he was there. But it's almost like LaFleur and Malarkey had a baby, like Exotic Smash Mouth and West Coast. But it's like it doesn't feel like it's ever evolved. Yeah. Like it seems very predictable at this point.
Like it's still in 2020.
Yeah,
but the league's not still in 2020.
Right. So coming up next, we're going to talk to Coach Mack about this hire, talk to him about the Tennessee Titans and what's next. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And it's time for our weekly Mac Attack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. And Coach Matt, Tennessee Titans got them a head coach. Your overall first impressions of Robert Saleh as the head coach?
Well, I'm glad they got a head coach hired. That's going to take a lot of work, to get a head coach hired. And then once you get that hired, then you got to start putting the staff together. So they've just started in, or he's just started in on that. So that's the next step. I mean, but you got to get a head coach hired first before you go to all these other steps.
It says Albert Breer put out an article detailing kind of the process, and they said it was about a 5-hour interview last night for them to come to that conclusion. That doesn't seem like a lot of time on the surface, but how intensive are these meetings to where you can cover that much ground about an entire football philosophy for a franchise in just about 5 hours?
Well, I know what I went through, and I've also been a part of hiring coaches and putting staff together at new places. You can get a lot found out in that amount of time, but you've got to be sequestered, and everybody's got to be focused on it. It's not, once you start talking for real, it's not a big drawn out process, but you do have to start talking about some very, very critical decision making points. And again, I mean, they've had a long runway to put this together, so it wasn't just those 5 hours.
When it comes to Robert Saleh, you've obviously have probably studied his defenses and his teams when they have played the Tennessee Titans. What has stood out to you about those teams when you went out and studied them?
Well, I haven't studied them, just when we would play him. I mean,
right.
He's a really, really detailed. Of course, everybody wants to know, is he 4-3 or are you 3-4? Well, you're everything right now in this day and age. You have to be, but his defenses have always been very, very solid. Of course, a lot of it depends on the players that you have too, but he was a legitimate defensive coach coming up through the ranks. And so you don't get to this point and you don't become a head coach twice if you don't have some legitimate leadership qualities and some legitimate structural ability too in this league. You can't work your way through it to this level twice without knowing what you're doing.
We're talking about the Titans coaching hiring with Coach Mack for his weekly Mac Attack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Well, Coach, naturally, once you hire your head coach, you said you got to get your assistants and everybody else involved with your staff. How difficult was it for you with that part in, let's say, your number one and number two choices end up, taking other jobs, higher elevated jobs, and then now you're kind of stuck with some middling and maybe unproven guys, but you know them, but you have to elevate their title to get there. I mean, how difficult is that? And with the unknown as, a second-time head coach, that you can get the guys you want, that you've sold the organization on, that you have a possibility to bring in?
Yeah, it takes work, Blaine. It really does. It's not a given. I mean, and you can have some things set in motion, and then all of a sudden it gets off track because they get offered other jobs, they get offered more money where they are. All of a sudden, the contracts may be extended. There are a lot of things that come up. You have to be able to pivot, and you also have to be able to have several areas that you can pivot to if the first one doesn't work. I mean, it's kind of like making adjustments in a ball game during a short amount of time. You have to have the total picture in your mind, and then you have to be able to move one direction or the other depending on how it works. It doesn't always come together like you thought it would to begin with. It just never does.
How difficult is it, Coach Mack, to, let's say, bring in a coordinator and then have a offensive coordinator with a quarterbacks coach and other position groups that wasn't familiar with that scheme and system and that coach, but they were high-level coaches? How difficult is that to mesh them together to make it function and work, at least in that first year?
So that's why you have to sit down and and really go through it, in great detail before you ever make those types of decisions. You don't just take anybody on the spur of the moment. I mean, it's just there's too much writing on it, and especially nowadays, the way the timeline is, and there's too much writing on it early on just to get somebody in there by happenstance and say maybe it'll work out. You got to have some forethought and some connections on that. I mean, I've just been involved in it for too long, and know that there has to be some kind of common tie when you put this thing together.
Speaking of common ties, the Titans have played all 4 teams in the final spots here in the championship game. Kind of take us through what stands out about those teams, and you can kind of go through the matchups, whether Seattle versus the Rams, Broncos versus New England, and why they had success this season. And some of it's a little bit of luck in getting your players to stay healthy, obviously. But why do you think these teams lasted to this point?
Well, first of all, they got a good roster. I mean, they got, most of them have deep rosters. Most of them have a quarterback that's playing at above a level that you have to have. I mean, and then the other thing is, as you see, as they've progressed, I mean, you had some teams, that NFC West was a really, really strong group, and then, the 49ers dropped out of it because they had so many injuries. But the Rams and the Seahawks are 2 of the better football teams. And we played them both, as you said, are 2 of the better football teams overall, roster-wise, in this league, because they've got all those components together. I mean, you don't last, you're on a championship team. You don't last this long, especially through the entire season, if you don't have not only premium players, but you've got depth. And both of those teams have been together long enough that they've got depth.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this because being a former DC most of your career in the National Football League, Jarrett Stidham is going to be starting for the Broncos, and everybody acts like, oh, that's just a no-brainer. The New England Patriots, are going to, stomp them. And I look at it a little bit differently in that you got to prepare for the unknown. You don't really know. So you got to go way back and watch some films probably with the team. I don't know how far back you have to go, 5 years or so, whatever it is. Does that bring difficulties for you on the defensive side, and it's not as easy as people think, even though you hadn't played?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, too, Blaine, is you've got to give Sean Payton credit. Sean Payton's done this before. He's gone into the playoffs, without his top guy, or he's gone into the playoff path without his top guy. Sean Payton's as good as there is. Offensively putting a game plan together, and it hurts him. Sure, it does. But Stidham is not an empty chair. That won't be a walkover game, I promise you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So who do you have making it to the Super Bowl, Coach? You got a prediction on either game?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are the best team in the NFC, and I think right now, for as much to me, it's going to be a real game between New England and Denver. And the New England Patriots, they're on a heater right now. They're on a heater, and they have, sometimes things just click, and they've got things clicking. So I'm going to say, Seattle, and then it's a toss-up to me now between New England and Denver, and a lot of it's going to depend on is how Sean Payton is able to handle this backup quarterback situation he's been faced with now.
No doubt about it. Wilma, Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Coach, going to the offensive coordinator position, the offensive staff, we were kind of talking earlier. Obviously, there's relationships, right, that kind of play into this, people that you worked with and all that stuff. How about people that you went up against? Like, how much are you weighing if you're Robert Saleh? Like, man, this offense and this coordinator and this staff gave me so much fits when we played against them. They just had my number, and I couldn't, I want a piece of that kind of offense. How often does that get weighed into the equation?
A lot. I mean, it really does. I mean, look, the NFL is a really small circle. I mean, you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and you make a good point. Anytime that
that you're coaching against somebody, and they give you problems, and they've given you problems possibly, perennially, and then you watch them play other people. You absolutely figures into it. But as I said, the circle is pretty small in this league, and people get a pretty good idea of if they're ever going to be in charge of kind of the line that they want to take. And so it's a very good point that you make, because I did the same thing. I knew what I wanted offensively, and it was people that gave me a lot of problems as far as being able to match up with them.
When we had this discussion before we brought you on air, we were talking about Art Smith, and we didn't really know how to describe Art Smith's offense. And of course, obviously, you were here when Art Smith was offensive coordinator. You covered the team. You got to see the offense 17 games out of the year. When you look at Art Smith, how would you describe his offense, and also how would his offense fit with Cam Ward?
Well, Arthur did a great job here, with a couple of different quarterbacks. First of all, Arthur Smith is a very, very intelligent guy. He was a defensive quality control when we first brought him in here from Washington, and you could tell right away, even when we would put the game plans together. He would make presentations to the team, and you would say, "Here's a dude that one of these days is going to be up in front of the big room." And look, his offense. He's got West Coast influence on him, but he also put his stuff together. He was very innovative with multiple tight ends. He's evolved, since he's been in the league. Arthur did a really good job for us here, and I think he has throughout his career of making good use of the people that he has. So I don't think Arthur pigeonholes himself, but I do know this, that he's an offensive lineman by trade. That's what he was at North Carolina. And so any meetings I've ever been in with him talking about offensive football, he's going to lean on being able to run the football and being very, very physical, and then being multiple, because he worked on the defensive side of the ball, and he understands what gives people problems.
There you have it. That's Coach Mack for his weekly Mack Attack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Coach Mack, next time we hear from you on the show, you'll be at the Senior Bowl. So we'll look forward to hearing from there.
That's part of it right now. That's part of the calendar. So
you started up. You started already.
Throughout this process.
You started breaking down players already, Coach?
Done 25 of them already.
There you go. Coach Mack, we appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. See you.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to go to your phone calls. We got Nolan in Nashville. We got others calling in. 615-737-1045 is the number. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls. We're going to head to Nolan, who's been patiently waiting. I like it when we have a caller that, he holds on for a while. And Nolan has held on. Nolan, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Nolan.
What's going on, y'all?
What's up?
Man, I think we got the best option given the circumstances, and I just hope for the best, man. I wanted to ask y'all, I like Bobby Slowick, man, as a coordinator. Is he not available?
He is available.
Okay. Well, nobody mentions him, man, but for some reason, man, I think he's pretty good. I hear they got a history together in San Francisco, man. So you think he'll be an option?
I think he would be, Nolan. I don't know, maybe not just for OC, because he was pass game specialist over there at Miami recently. So you would kind of glean some insight. Like when you go to these places, you get to pick and choose and maybe bring in, hey, I was doing this way in Houston. Here's maybe some new ways of doing it. Oh, here's a new wrinkle for a scheme. Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys blocked it that way, and you guys approached the blocking scheme this way, or you did the wide receiver. Oh, I see why you did the wide. Like you pick up on stuff like that. Now, what is
game coordinator maybe?
Yeah. What is interesting to me is that he was obviously the scapegoat, and I said this at the time. I felt like he was the scapegoat for C.J. Stroud. What's interesting is that we have a clip from Lance Zierlein, who I don't know how this didn't make the rounds last year. And I didn't even know this existed until I guess Buck or Lucas mentioned it on their show earlier today. But this is Lance Zierlein on pretty much Bobby Slowick and C.J. Stroud didn't even like each other before he was drafted. And that creates problems when you draft a player like that and your offensive coordinator and him don't already get along. Here is what Lance Zierlein had to say.
I'll tell you the whole thing now that Slowick's gone. C.J. Stroud came to visit the Texans, and Bobby Slowick was telling them, okay, they were watching stuff on tape. Now, before I tell you this, when C.J. was at Ohio State, he really didn't talk to the OC at all. He didn't think he knew ball. This coming from somebody who knows C.J. intimately. He didn't think the offense coordinator was very smart. So he would only talk to Ryan Day. Ryan Day was the guy who had to communicate with C.J., which I didn't love that, honestly, before the draft process. And it played into some of my thoughts on C.J. in terms of coachability. What I heard was that he didn't, like, his communication was Ryan Day and not the offense coordinator. Okay, well, that's a little strange, but whatever. He comes into Houston. Bobby Slowick is trying to tell him some stuff, and C.J. just says, oh, yeah, I know that we call this, whatever, XY switch, whatever it would be at Ohio State. And apparently, maybe it happened a couple times, and Bobby Slowick just kind of jumped him and said, I don't give a what you call it, Ohio State. That's college. This is pro football. And Bobby kind of got in his face about it, And CJ's not one to back down at all. And CJ, and I don't know if Bobby was testing him or I don't know what the deal was, but CJ jumped up and got back in his face. And it was very contentious. It had to be kind of broken up. And so when CJ went to his next draft meeting, and I talked to the team where CJ went, because I asked this team, hey, did you hear anything about this with CJ Stroud? And they said, oh, we asked CJ how his last visit went, which was Houston. And he said, terrible. I don't think I'll be going there. And people who train, like CJ's whole crew did not want him to go to Houston. And they didn't think he was going to Houston because it was he and Bobby got into it. And then CJ was drafted by Houston, which that's one of the reasons I was really surprised. Like I kind of wrote, after finding that out, I wrote CJ off from the Texans and I thought, okay, this is Will Anderson for sure. And so when they traded for him, I was very surprised because I knew there was that lingering stuff there. But then in discussing all of it last year, I heard it was squashed. Like there was no issue. Bobby and him were good.
I mean, yeah, things change, but I mean, that's not starting off on the right foot regardless whether you're trying to test them. Because I know sometimes in these draft meetings you ask weird questions or you do this and that to kind of test how a player will respond. But
he tested him on the field, though. Did he mix and match that, or how, I didn't understand?
Well, I guess he was showing him video clips of certain things. And CJ kept interrupting him, saying, well, this is how we did it at Ohio State. This is how we did it at Ohio State. This is how we did or we did this at Ohio State. Which sounds like to me he's just trying to relate to, Bobby and the offense and what, I understand, blah, blah, blah. And then apparently that pissed Bobby off. I don't know. But that whole thing sounded like it was pretty doomed from the get-go in those pre-draft meetings. points.
Yet that is the best they've gotten out of C.J. Stroud.
Exactly. That is the best they've gotten out of C.J. Stroud.
Maybe he was holding him to a little more accountability.
Maybe.
What do you think?
Maybe, because maybe Bobby Slowick knew his limitations. I don't know. Just a very interesting clip that I was not aware of today.
He definitely don't look like the time he was with Bobby Slowick.
Nope.
No, not
the way
at all.
he played, I'm like, oh, man, what happened?
Yeah. Very interesting. But yes, Bobby Slowick is a name to watch, obviously, because of the history with Robert Saleh. They were together at San Francisco for a little bit. Let's go to Cedric in Murfreesboro. Cedric, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Man, the sun is a little bit brighter today. The air is a little bit cleaner, man. It is a great day to be a Titan, man. Thank you, Miss Amy, for putting a smile on our faces, man. Amen. Amen. Now, listen, man, I'm glad to have an identity. A coach is going to bring an identity. Bring back the exotic smash mouth football, and I want to throw a name out there for OC that I think would pair well with him, especially if we draft Jeremiah Love at the number 4 pick. You know what I'm saying? Darrell Bevel, man. What do you think about that? I looked up his stats. I think he's got some ties to Robert Saleh, but he's been a coordinator in the league for 15 years. Had multiple top 10 scoring offenses. Definitely runs the ball well, and I think his style of offense would pair well with Robert Saleh.
Where's he at now? Where's he at last year?
Well, he was in Miami as the quarterbacks coach.
Oh, gotcha.
As the last stop. Yes, sir. But he was with the OC. He's been at Green Bay, but he got famous when he was the OC for Pete Carroll up there with the Legion of Boom. So how about that, bro?
I got you.
Okay. All right, man.
That's right. That's right.
There you go.
There, yes.
Hey, thanks on that one. Yeah, Robert Saleh and Darrell Bevel, I believe at Seattle 2011 to 2013 is when they crossed paths. Yes, they crossed paths in Seattle. And yes, Darrell Bevel has been down at Miami 2022 from now. So he was hired as the quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator down there as soon as Mike McDaniel showed up. So he's been there. And that is an interesting name to throw out there. But I will say he never really met the potential that was always felt like was bestowed upon him. He never lived up to the reputation. I know that I'd have to go and fact check what he said about the scoring offenses and all that kind of stuff. But he also will say he has worked with the Russell Wilson and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm not totally writing it off. I mean, he just turned 56. But how much of his offense has actually adopted and evolved over the years? Because the last few times he's been head coach or OC, we're talking about the 32nd ranked offense in points, 20th ranked offense in points, 18 ranked offense in points. And that was at 2019 Detroit, 2020 Detroit, and 2021 Jacksonville. Not great situations, but it is important to note that, yes, at a period of time in Seattle with Russell Wilson at the height of his powers, he was really good. Yeah. Everywhere else, been a little mediocre.
Maybe because he's out of a job now, right?
Technically, I don't know what his contract status is, but if you hire a new coach, you probably are likely you're gone. More than likely.
Maybe quarterback coach.
Maybe quarterbacks coach, passing game coordinator. There's a spot for Darrell Bevel on this offense. Just don't know if OC's where I'd land. All right.
I'm with you.
That will do it for us. We've enjoyed it today. A lot of Robert Saleh talk. A lot more to go. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.
Salah.